Namaskar. Welcome to this edition of the News Bulletin. In the headlines today, self-discipline, patience and communication, key to prevent the spread of COVID-19, emphasizes Mr. Deepak Chattaraj, CEO, RSP. And employees of SAIL Rourkela steel plant win laurels in Suraksha Anubhuti 2020 competitions. And now the news in detail. Self-discipline, patience and communication hold the key to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Strict adherence to the guidelines, following medical advice and timely reporting of sickness of self or dependents will help in effectively combating the disease, emphasized Mr. Deepak Chattaraj, CEO, while addressing the senior officers of SAIL, Rourkela Steel Plant RSP, over a teleconference on 22nd September 2020. Mr. P.K. Dash, ED Works, Mr. Rajveer Singh, ED PNA, Mr. D.K. Mahapatra, ED-MM, Mr. Praveen Nigam, CGM FNA, Dr. B.K. Hota, Director M&HS, CGMs and HODs of different departments of the plant participated in the interaction. The CEO, who himself is recuperating from COVID-19, further said there is an increase in the COVID cases in the recent past, while the recovery rate has also improved. The steel plant has put in place an effective mechanism and necessary health infrastructure to efficiently manage the outbreak. Timely medical consultation will facilitate early and assured recovery. Elaborating about the large-scale arrangements and facilities developed to meet the challenging situation, the CEO said, "We have been taking proactive measures to meet every challenge arising out of this pandemic. From setting up of the COVID testing center, development of quarantine and isolation facilities, further strengthening the healthcare system, to installation of plasma bank at IGH, our efforts have helped us to meet the exigency." He emphasized upon regular monitoring of the situation and rationalization of manpower deployment at the plant units in view of the current scenario. The CEO also thanked all the stakeholders, including the administration, government machineries, trade unions and executive association, who have been extending support in the fight against the pandemic. In his address, Mr. P.K. Dash emphasized upon the role of the Suraksha Chakras in the fight against the pandemic. He advised the collective not to be afraid and avail the facility of COVID care center in case of urgency. Mr. Rajveer Singh stressed on detection and contact tracing as a priority area. Mr. D.K. Mahapatra appreciated RSP Collective for facing the challenge with a positive approach and urged the collective to take utmost care in view of the peak period of the pandemic. Mr. Praveen Nigam, in his address, advised the collective to avoid self-medication and to consult medical practitioners in case of any difficulty. Dr. Hota reassured on the preparedness of the medical team to meet any eventuality. During the interaction session, various ways and means of containing the COVID-19 pandemic, protecting the employees and their family members from the disease, and plans for more proactive measures were discussed in detail. The employees of SAIL Rourkela Steel Plant RSP have won many awards in different categories of competitions held under the Suraksha Anubhuti 2020 scheme. The competitions were organized by SAIL Safety Organization, SSO Ranchi. RSP employees bagged all the first, second and third prize under the Electrical Safety Type 2 competition. Besides, employees from RSP also bagged 2 consolation prizes under the same category. The team, comprising Mr. Devaraja Sarangi, Senior Technician, Mr. Prafulla Kumar Patra, MOMT, and Mr. Gopal Kumar Sahu, Senior Technician of Hot Strip Mill HSM, bagged the first prize for their project on repositioning of direction control valve, DC valve and 24 volts coil for strip cooling system above run-out table in HSM. Similarly, Mr. A.K. Pine of Oxygen Plant bagged the second prize for the project connection of 3-phase bus bars of the electrically operated trolley EOT crane to earth during its electrical power shutdown. While the team comprising Mr. Devaraja Sarangi, Mr. Devananda Minj and Mr. Babuli Kumar Swain, both senior technicians of HSM, bagged the third prize for their project on elimination of hazards and unsafe condition due to waterlogging of ROT cold water pump cellar. The team consisting of Mr. G.C. Mahanta, Assistant Manager, Mr. A.K. Sethi, Assistant Manager, Mr. A.K. Pine, MOMT, Mr. A.K. Samantara, SOST, Mr. T. Satpati, SOST, Mr. S.K. Samal, OCT, and Mr. M.D. Das, ACT of Oxygen Plant, bagged consolation prize for their project on oxygen plant modification and PLC automation of vaporizers in propane plants. Another team comprising of Mr. Devaraja Sarangi, Mr. Hare Krishna Sahu and Mr. Shashikanta Pradhan, both MOMTs of HSM, also bagged consolation prize for their project on hazards and risk mitigation by providing insulation barrier on 3-phase power bus bars 415 volts AC for coil box drive panels. Mr. Ramesh Chandra Patra, SOST of blast furnaces, also bagged the consolation prize in the same category for his project to achieve zero harm by ensuring positive isolation. Similarly, in the competitions held under the crane safety category, Mr. Badal Kumar Kar, Senior Operative of ERW Pipe Plant, bagged the second prize for his project on special lifting tools for material handling in pipe plant. Mr. Tapas Kumar Pati, Assistant Manager of SMS 2 Crane Maintenance, bagged the consolation prize for his project on accident in crane of BOF shop. The competitions witnessed enthusiastic participation from teams from different steel plants. The winners will receive their cash award through online payment. And that's all for now. Namaskar.